Hey, what's up? This is Neen. A few days ago, I posted a picture of myself in a posture called Super Soldier Pose, and there were a few people that were wondering how to do it. So today what we're going to do is work on some hip openers that'll help you work toward this posture. It's what's sometimes called a peak posture because it's kind of difficult to get into if you haven't done a lot of preparation. So especially today, we're going to focus mostly on the hips and on opening the shoulders a little bit to prepare for this posture, okay? So let's begin in tabletop. So you want to set yourself up, hips over knees, shoulders over wrists, nice tabletop position, and we're just going to start with some simple hip circles. So lift the leg, circle clockwise a few times, circle counterclockwise a few times, and then same deal on the other side, counterclockwise and clockwise. Then let's press it up into downward facing dog. Remember, as always, your heels might not touch the mat. You might look like this, you might look like this, and you might look like this, or somewhere in between. So we start in downward dog, and we're just going to pedal the feet a little bit. Pedal it out, stretch out the calves, stretch out the hamstrings. Get everything feeling good. And then step your right foot forward to come into a low lunge. Let's start to get the front of the hip and the quadriceps stretched out, so you can just bring your hands to your knee. Take a few full, deep breaths. And then we'll transition that to a high lunge, so really press back through the heel. Again, a few full, deep breaths, keeping the navel drawn in. Next is a pose called lizard pose. So walk your right foot out to the edge of your mat a little bit and then bring your hands to the mat. As with most yoga poses, there's a lot of levels here. So you might stay up on your hands. You might bring your forearms down to a block. And you may bring your forearms all the way down to the mat. Just depends on your degree of hip opening on that right side. So we come into lizard pose, keep the eye gaze forward, keep the navel drawn in, nice long back. And a few deep breaths here. Then come onto the outer edge of your foot and let that right knee fall out to the side. This is a great way to open the hip without causing too much strain on the knee. So just come out to the degree that feels right for your hip, feels right for your knee. A few deep breaths here. From here, we're going to transition into Warrior Two. So plant that foot again. Come back up, straighten your legs as much as you can. Again, that back heel might not drop down. Drop the back heel to the mat so that your toes are facing forward. And then come on up, just into a stance like this. Walk that front foot back to the middle of the mat so it's bisecting your back foot. Bring your arms out into a T position. Drop the shoulders down away from the ears. And then bend into your front knee. Want to avoid arching the low back here, so again, navel in, glutes squeezing, looking out over your right middle finger. Nice long neck. From here, we transition into extended side angle pose. You might need a block for this one. So you can bring the block at any height to the inside of that right foot. Bring your hand to it. Stretch your left arm forward. You want a nice long diagonal line from the fingertips to the heels. So remember your levels here, right? Find the stretch that's right for you. If you can bring that hand the full way to the mat, go for it. Nice long line. Trying to keep that front thigh parallel to the mat. From here, we'll transition into triangle pose. So come back up through Warrior Two, straighten the front leg. And then reach your right fingertips forward toward the front of the mat as long as you can before either bringing that right hand to the shin, bringing it all the way to the mat, or again, using your block friend here at any height. Look up toward your left hand if it is comfortable for your neck. If not, just keep your eye gaze forward. Full long breaths here. Nice long spine. Imagining something pulling your head toward the front of your mat to keep that back nice and long. From here, we will transition into our first wide-legged forward fold. We're going to do a few of these because it's really good for warming up the hips. So turn those right toes to face the side of your mat. So now your feet can be pigeon-toed in a little bit, or your feet can be perfectly parallel to one another. It really just depends on how your hips rotate and how it feels to you. It should feel comfortable and grounding. So bring your hands to the floor, to the mat. This might be enough of a forward fold for you. It just depends. If you can come down a little further, start to bend the elbows. Maybe your forearms come to the mat. Other options here, you can grab for the outsides of the calves, grab for the outsides of the heels, and then bend the elbows out. Maybe head touches the mat, maybe it doesn't. All depends on you and where you're at that day. Nothing is wrong. You're on the path where you are. So just find a good level for you. Long, deep breaths. Navel always drawn in. From here, we're going to transition into goddess pose. So walk your feet a little closer together, a little wider than hip distance. Kick your heels in, kick your toes out, and then come into a gentle squat. Again, we're trying to get those thighs parallel to the floor. It might happen, it might not. Bring your palms up, facing forward. A few deep breaths here, and then we can transition into Malasana. Now, you might stay in this goddess pose. You might come down sitting on a block or two. Keep the weight in your heels, that's important. So you might look like this. And if you have the mobility, you can take that block away and sit all the way down. Dropping the tailbone as close to the mat as you can get it, keeping the navel drawn in, and always having that nice long back. So from the side, you want to look something like this. You don't want to be forward on your toes like this, and you don't want the back to be rounded in. So navel drawn in, shoulders pulling back, tailbone pointing down. All right. So from here, we're going to do it all on the other side. So turn, face the back of your mat, drop your right knee down, come into your low lunge. Few full deep breaths here, sending the hips forward, drawing the navel in, lifting the head up. Coming into your high lunge. Next, we come back into that lizard pose, so walk the left foot out, bring your hands to the mat, or you bring forearms to a block, or you bring forearms all the way to the mat. What feels good? Focus on that. Remember, as always, it's consistency, not depth. Let's open the hip a little bit, so come onto the outer edge of that left foot. Drop the knee out to the side. Full long breaths here. And then we'll come up into our warrior two pose. So walk the foot back to the middle of the mat, straighten the legs to the degree that you can, and just come up like this. So again, that front foot bisecting the back foot, arms out into a T, bend into the left leg. Navel in, tailbone down. Nice long spine. Looking out over the left middle finger. Then straighten that left leg, reach toward the back of your mat, and come down into your triangle pose. So again, lots of levels. You might be here, you might be here, and you might have your hand on your shin, whatever feels right to you. And then we'll transition back into another wide-legged forward fold. So get toes pointing toward the side, pointing straight forward. Nice deep breath in, and then fold forward. So again, you're coming down to the degree that feels right to you. You might press your hands down into the mat. This might be enough of a forward fold. Take a few breaths here, and then we're going to open the shoulders. So reach behind you. You can have your hands apart, or if you can clasp your hands together, go ahead and go for it. Fold forward to the degree that's right for you. And if you don't feel any pain at all, you can start to lift those hands away from the back. Your hands can come apart a little bit. You can wiggle your shoulders a little side to side to get more open. Just full long breaths right here. Then bring your hands back down to your low back. Plant your hands on the floor and start to walk them forward a little bit. It's kind of like a really wide-legged downward facing dog. Full long breaths in. Full long breaths out. From here, we'll come back into our goddess squat. So kick the heels in, point the toes out. Knees are directly over the heels. You don't want them to pitch forward like this. So imagine you're pushing your thighs back. You come into your goddess. And then we'll go back down into a squat. So again, you might have your blocks stacked up to rest your tailbone on them and push your knees back like this. Or if you're feeling more open, you can take those blocks away, come down into your squat, and again, knees and toes tracking in the same direction, not tipping forward, coming to the inside of the foot, pushing into the heels, pressing the knees back, and feeling good. Feeling good always, that's the most important thing. Don't do anything that hurts. Next, we're going to come down onto the floor. So bring your hands behind you, drop your butt down, stretch your legs out a little bit, wiggle them out. And then we're going to come down onto the back. So just laying flat on your back, knees bent, as if you were about to do a bridge pose, but we're going to come into figure 4. This is another nice way to open your hips without causing strain on the knees. I really love pigeon pose, but for a lot of people it causes pain in the knees. So we're essentially going to do that on our back. So take your right ankle and cross it over your left thigh. This might be enough of a stretch for you. You can even take your right palm and press into the inner thigh a little bit, as long as you don't feel any pain in the knee, because the rule of thumb is that knees don't stretch. Lots of other things in your body stretch, but there's no connective tissue in your knee that is designed to stretch. So this might be enough, or you can bring the hands behind the thigh and start to pull that left thigh in toward you. If this grip doesn't feel good, you can straighten the leg out and grab behind the calf. So find whatever feels good to you. Take a few full deep breaths here. And then bring that left foot back down to the mat. Uncross your legs. Maybe you drop your knees out to the side a few times. Wiggle it out a little bit. And then we'll do the same thing on the left side. So cross your left ankle over your thigh. My left knee is a lot tighter than my right one. So this usually feels good to me. Sometimes I bring the hands behind the thigh and start to pull in a little bit, but it's not very much. You know, as soon as I start to feel that twinge in my knee, I back off. Again, maybe you straighten the leg, grab behind the calf, whatever's right for you. And then you drop the foot down, uncross the legs, and again, maybe you just drop your knees in and out a few times. And we'll come into a posture called happy baby or dead bug. Either word is correct. I've heard it called both things. You're going to bring your feet so they're pressing up toward the ceiling. Bend your knees and bring your thighs to either side of your abdomen. And then grab onto either the outer edges of the feet or the big toes. Again, either grip is fine. Do what feels best to you. Tuck your chin in slightly towards your chest and really draw your navel in so you're pressing that low back into the mat. Again, you don't want to have an arch in your low back, so pull the belly in, press the spine into the mat, and then use your grip to try to pull your thighs down. So again, you might have the outsides of the feet and look more like this. And then take some movement here. You can straighten one leg, bend the other, straighten one leg, bend the other. Maybe take both legs straight and start to pull the feet toward you a little bit. Thinking about what feels good, what gives you a little stretch in the back of your hamstrings. All right. Now we're ready to try out Super Soldier, okay? So, as with all of the poses that we've done so far, there are levels to this. You might stop at the first step, you might go all the way through. Just kind of figure out where you are today, remembering always, what's the rule? Consistency, not depth. Okay. Okay, so the first thing we want to do here is come back into our forward fold. So take the feet a little bit wider than hips with the distance apart. Take a nice deep breath in. And as you exhale, fold the body forward. Now you might end up right here, either with your hands on the floor, your hands on your shins. So maybe you shift body weight a little side to side, loosen up the hips even more. Come back down into your squat a few times, stretch it out. Get yourself loosened up and feeling good. And then the next step is to take this left arm and get it behind your left leg as far as you can. So kind of use the left hand to push against the back of the left heel and push your shoulder behind it. And then bring your right hand out to the side and come up onto fingertips. The next step is to walk the right foot in a little bit and come up onto the toes. Now maybe you stay right here, just again, kind of working on shifting the weight, feeling yourself really grounded. And then the next step is to grab for the outer edge of the right foot with the left hand. From here we shift the weight even more and start to lean into the left foot and the right hand fingertips as you start to point that right knee up toward the ceiling as much as you can to the degree that feels good to you today. Long full breath here. Long full breath out. Another deep breath in. And as you exhale, lower that right leg back down to the mat. Now, as with everything that we do in yoga, you've got to do it on both sides. Even if you're not as open on both sides, you still want to attempt so that you can work both sides of the body evenly. So again, we take our nice deep breath in. We exhale, come into that forward fold. Maybe you're working here. Maybe you're shifting weight a little bit. Maybe you squat up and down. And then you start to work your right arm behind your right leg. Same thing. As far as you can. Maybe you're resting here today. Bring your left hand out to the side. Shift your weight a little side to side. Feel grounded. Then reach for the outer edge of the left foot with the right hand. Start to shift the weight. And again, we're going to come up, starting to point that left knee up toward the ceiling to the degree that feels good, no strain. Full breath in. Full breath out. Full breath in. And as you exhale, lower that left leg back down to the mat, and you come on up. And that's it. That's Super Soldier pose. So think about it. Every day, just being consistent, trying some of these postures every day to keep your hips warmed up, keep them moving, and you work into it slowly, a little bit at a time. That's the biggest thing I can say about this. I've been doing yoga for over a decade, and it's only within the last few years that I'm starting to work on some of these more advanced postures like Super Soldier. So play around with it, try it, let me know how you do, all right? Thanks. Namaste. Have a great day.